This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
You've tuned in to my conversation with South African guitar shredder extraordinaire, Robyn Ferguson. The catalyst for the chat this time around with Robyn is the release of her new EP for 2021. It is titled The Waking World, and it will surprise some that she has put down the guitar and picked up the piano. So here she is to tell us all about it. One of the greatest guitarists to come out of South Africa, Robyn Ferguson. When I saw you playing the piano, and there was about a 15-second upload that you did on Instagram, I think it was, and I heard you playing, and instantly I went, yes, here she is. Because I love your guitar stuff, but I've got to say, I just love what you're doing here. I've listened to it so much, particularly as I'm trying to get into a quasi-meditative state just before going to sleep, just before I pick up my book and read it. I think you've knocked it out of the park with this stuff here. I am going to say it. I think it is your best material, and that's not to dismiss the work that you've done before, because as I say, I'm a fan. I've messaged you when I'm walking at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've been listening to your stuff, and the world is just starting to come alive as the sun comes up. But I think this is you. Do you feel the same way?
Thank you so much. It's big compliments. I appreciate it. I think you're one of a very few that understand the journey of the Alizarian Chronicles, of my music, the story that it tells. I think many people see it as broken bits, a random EP with a few songs and a few songs and a few songs. But there are increasing numbers of people who are actually paying attention to the whole story. And I think you're one of them. So yeah, this is part of the story. I wanted to really, during this lockdown time, I've had obviously a lot of different emotions, and there's been music that has been released. I've believed in just continue. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to just go back to like real, raw emotion, raw essence, kind of how I did with Harbinger, just go sit down and write some music. But this time I had very specific dissonances and sort of surrealistic melodies in my head. When I came to record the damn thing, we have this wonderful thing we spoke of last time of load shedding, where the electricity cuts out for a specific amount of time. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yep. And I was just in one of those moments where you're in the groove and you need to record, you need to do it now. What was in front of me and working and going, and there was my little MIDI controller. And I just decided, you know what, boom, here it is. And when I look back at the album, like 2-3 songs into it, that I'd written just like in a stretch, I sat back and looked and I was like, oh my word, this is quite different. And there was a moment of self-doubt. I say a moment, but a while of self-doubt of like, oh, how it's going to be accepted, and it's so vastly different, and what. And I just decided, you know what, that's complete nonsense. I'm an artist, and there are so many different tools to paint with, so many different paintbrushes, so many different ways to do things, that why should we be limited to one single thing? And I found that regardless of the instrument, because I'm going to have many questions about it, I'm sure, as to like why piano and not guitar or what. For me, this album specifically was, all my music actually is about the emotion and the heart, but this specifically was about dealing with very deep-seated personal issues that I've had from like childhood things that I've said that have just been really awful, that you end up carrying with you, and you realize how it shaped and morphed you. And yeah, I just really wanted to break all of that away and go find the little nuggets, find the new leaf in amongst all the chaos. Like once you've burnt everything down, there's always some kind of like new leaf, and go find that. And I think it was just it's just emotion. Yeah. It's real feeling, in the moment feeling. And I think if it landed up maybe if it was on a guitar, it would also be cool. I think it would be, but it would be very different. For this, it just is right that it happened to be on this. And it's part of like the new growth. I think in my future works, which I'm really excited about, which I'm working on right now already. I mean, as you know, music just, I continue writing. Yep. So the journey even further from here is to incorporate some of the piano into some guitar playing. There's also like, I'm messing with ideas of incorporating vocals. So this is just sort of like the fifth step, but also, you know, like when you get to the top of a mountain, you just take a breath. You have a look around and you just see everything. And then you go, okay, well, there's an even bigger mountain. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if this is the calm before the next thing, then so be. But I don't think this is calm anything.
Yeah. I think I understand why people who aren't in tune with what you're doing and who haven't probably listened to you and probably haven't connected in the way that I have with your music, that there probably will be some questions about, yeah, obviously, why did you stop playing the guitar? You know, this sort of thing, like you've mentioned. But quality music is quality music.
Never stop.
Yeah. So through the interview cycle in preparation for this, that's obviously come up a lot, I take it.
Yeah, believe it or not, so I've been like, what's happened to your guitar? Like, you're not playing guitar anymore? And I'm like, are you daft? Absolutely daft. Are you kidding me? It's the same thing I had when I was moving from the band situation. It's like when I was in the band originally, I was just a guitarist. And then it was like, oh, wow, guitar. Then suddenly I did vocals and guitar in a band. Then it was almost like, now that has to be in everything. And I was like, no. Then I decided to just do some freelance, just vocals, you know, then everything. And I was like, no, well, let's go back to guitar, instrumental guitar. Now it's a box again. So, quit putting me in a box, man. Yeah. Let's just make good music. Really matter what it is. I mean, go stand outside in the middle of a storm, okay, safely, obviously, but stand outside when the trees are blowing in the wind, your window when the ocean is crashing outside, when nature is insane, you know, and then go watch it when it's at its most peaceful. Mm-hmm. And tell me that there's no melody and inspiration in that, you know, and tell me that that's not music. There's some kind of a box and some kind of an relatable and to have to comprehend. I get it.
I suppose, I take your point, and but I think you're at a point though where it's probably reasonable for people to understand. I hope this is a reasonable enough statement anyway. For people to understand who you are as an artist, they kind of have to go back to the beginning of your journey, certainly to where I was. Hey, sorry, can you hear me? It just sort of cut out there. There you go. I can see you.
Oh, sorry.
Is it load shedding?
So sorry, my connection is awful.
No, it's
one of those days. There's one of those raging storms outside. So my network's been really technical. Yeah, sorry about that.
No, God, there's nothing you can do about that. God, don't worry about that. You know.
I don't know where we left off, but if you look at nature, is what I was getting at. You can see all cats on the car, and that's melody. You can't tell me that we need to put it in one specific box. As humans, we need to understand something and be relatable. I get that. But at the same time, I would far rather spend time sharing art and music and being excited about it and create more art and music than worry about why did you play a piano instead of a guitar?
Yeah.
Like, who gives a damn? Like it? Yes. Awesome. No? Okay. Like, that's all right. That's also fine.
I was hoping you'd go in
That's
this
where we're
direction.
at. And
Yeah, I was just hoping that you go in this direction because I love. It's very difficult for me to separate falling forward and triptych, of course, but you've got what you've done here. I think more fully explores, I think, who you are as an artist. I've got to say, and that's the way I feel about it. You know why? Because it's just you and a piano. Okay, there's not all this other stuff going on at the same time. It's very raw. It's very real. It's obviously very emotional. So you could almost have gone with Act 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 because there are 5 cuts on the EP. How did you choose the song titles this time around?
yeah, so the song titles, I was in a weird mind when I went to go write it. There was a lot going on. And I didn't necessarily write the songs in the order that they appear in the EP. Yeah. I kind of wrote and recorded them a bit. The first was Shallow, then a whole bunch of random pieces in between, and then it went to Half Life.
From that conversation there, I did actually have a question planned, which you've kind of already raised. You've kind of already raised an aspect of the question that I was going to ask, which is that with the change in instrumentation, so from the guitars to the piano, you must have shared it with some people close to you. And that was what I was going to ask you, was that what was the reception? But it sounds like it was mixed, and it sounds like some people sort of showed their, I don't want to say true colours, if you like, but some people probably weren't supportive in a way that you were hoping.
It was incredibly revealing. At the time when I was writing this, so my music comes out a little bit delayed, I guess.
So it has been revealing for you, has it? That the people that
yeah. So I was busy writing it kind of around the time that Triptych was being released, and I was also doing like speaking with a fair amount of people, and it was around the time when there was a bit of hype in South Africa with 1 or 2 things happening. And it was an incredibly revealing moment for me to see not only who in the local industry, but international industry, friends, fans, and supporters, to see like who's who in the zoo a little bit, and to see who's actually in it because they really want to do this and they really like have a passion for music, and who are just along for the joyride. Yeah. So it was a very revealing time for me, and I struggled with it a little bit. And through that, it also taught me, which is where Reset kind of came from, is to, or at least the title came from, which was, just forget about everybody else. Doesn't actually matter. As long as you're doing you, you're good. Yeah. You're here for a plan and a purpose and for a reason. It doesn't necessarily always make sense, but I am Robyn. So I can't be anybody else because everybody else already exists. I'm Robyn. Even if there are many versions of me out there in the multiverse, at least right now, I am aware of this version. So I got to own it, and I think then I was just like, reset. This is what I'm doing. So it's been a whole fun journey. And I decided to couple that with the art as well. And just, like I am actually an artist on the side. I do graphic illustration and I do airbrushing and a whole bunch of things. And I just decided, you know what, I've always been quite harshly judged with my art, depending on where I've been. So like I've been creating some art and I might show it to some of my metalhead friends and it may be like a pretty drawing and then they'll be like, oh, it's not brutal enough. Or the other way around, it's too brutal. And it's just been perhaps like too much listening to other people and not enough actually following my heart and my passion and just going, you know what, rad, let's do this. And that was partially what Falling Forward was rad, let's do this. So I had to remind myself of that. Harbinger as well. Harbinger was a let's throw it out there album. It was, we're going into lockdown and I just lost friends and I don't know what's going on. Boom. Poof. This is, life's really hectic. But hey, I'm finding myself. Like, we can get through this somehow. Like, yeah, we've got this. Let's rebuild. Let's do something cool. And then everything coming is power.
Yeah. You tend to get that power when you stand within your own truth, and oftentimes that journey is bloody awful because it does mean losing friendships and people revealing their intentions toward you or around you, if you like, especially when you're looking for that type of support. I totally get it. I mean, here's the thing, I don't know anybody else in my own life that listens to heavy metal, yet alone death metal or extreme metal. I'm it. I was literally it growing up too. I didn't even have a lot of metalhead mates. The people that I know these days are people like yourself. That's still the same. All of my friends are normal football, rugby loving blokes and dads and stuff like that, like regular Aussies or, you did regular people, if you know what I'm saying. Like they don't even understand this shit. I think one of them went online and had a look at the guys in Cradle of Filth and said, that's the bands you interview? Because he was aware that I did the podcast. But, with a lot of that sort of the extreme metal bands that I like and that I interview is like, that doesn't make sense. Like I know you as a person, you never talk about this stuff with me. And it's like, yeah, because it's not what we've got in common. It's not how we bond. We bond over having a few beers and going to the football or State of Origin or whatever it might be. I've got one good mate who's very supportive, but otherwise, just to round on the point, standing within your own truth is when you are at your very best, but it can feel lonely, I think, at the same time. But I also feel that sometimes that's the price of entry when you actually graduate to becoming like the artist that you're meant to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we are, as people and as individuals, we are so multifaceted. Like there's so many parts to us. We box ourselves in because we try to find like a bit of a comfort zone or a safe zone. And it's cool because if you have like a community that you're part of, then you feel safe and you have support. But at the same time, that can often be a bit limiting. Yeah. And it can put some blinkers on your eyes. Mm-hmm. And I think often we become afraid to share different sides of ourselves with people and with whoever who have only necessarily seen one side, like not necessarily in my life. I've always been fairly open, but I've witnessed it with people who are like, wear their Cannibal Corpse shirt to their metalhead friends, and then at home they wear like a pink t-shirt and they pretend they never listen to metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, look, throughout the years, I've had a lot of criticism. Being a female metal artist in bands, I've had like weird comments like, why the chick in the band? Like, why the girl in the band? Why, like random things like, oh, show us your tits, do this, do that. So I've had a fair amount of really weird, interesting inboxes of people telling me what I should and shouldn't do and giving me their opinions on life. Sometimes I found it necessary to politely put people in their place and remind them of like, hey, I'm a person. Yeah. Like there's a little bit of basic human respect. Like, remember that we are real. But other than that, I like to also believe that people on the other side are also real. There's a reason for them going off like that. I don't always agree with it or understand it, but I tend to just try not to be too bothered with it. Let people have their opinions, let them say they say.
I think it's just to your point about managing things in the moment when you are being yourself in a way that you can live with moving forward. After I've said all of that. And I think from the sounds of things, you're handling yourself beautifully on that front.
I think it's to hold people accountable the same way you would like to be accountable. I think a lot of people say shit, Did she said bullshit. How's it going? Yeah. So I think a lot of people like to talk, and I like to talk a big game quite often, and like to just talk a lot of hot air because they're lonely or they would like attention as well. And it's a thing. Yeah. I think it's important to, if somebody steps out of line, to hold them accountable for what they've said. Because people do say some stuff that's really messed up sometimes. So I don't see an issue in going, could you elaborate on what you've just said? Like, could you explain what you mean? I think right now we're in quite a react society. So somebody will say something perhaps poorly phrased, and somebody else will jump on it and just go and attack and say, how dare you say all of this? And they'll really blow it up. I think we need to have a bit more peace, a bit more tolerance, and a bit more love. Let's let things, give people a moment, give them a gap to elaborate themselves. And if they are really, really being off the field, then fair, I think there's a time and a place to make people aware of how their behavior makes others feel. And I think there's ways that you can find a cool common, you can find a balance. Yeah. Be that needing to block somebody eventually. Yeah, okay, cool. But I think there's many steps in between. We've had it in the past with Adorned in Ash many years ago. We had this troll. I don't even remember the guy's name anymore. See, that's how little it matters at the end of the day. Yeah. At the end of the day, they're all just some guy. And he had quite a fun time making a parody out of Adorned in Ash, calling it Adorned in Ass. Which is kind of funny because when I first joined the band, I originally misheard them and I thought that was what the band's name was. And I thought it was kind of comical. So the joke never stuck to me, but the guy went quite bad and started making very terrible posts and started attacking us as people and our families as people. My mother has passed, and making jokes about my dead mother in hell is not something I quite appreciate. Yeah.
What a piece of shit.
That is a line that
just
is
an
definitely
absolute
crossed.
piece of shit. Yeah. Look, anybody who does that, it's
Because,
yeah. That's
yeah. So that's a line that's very much crossed. But somebody who is misinformed or who hasn't had an experience before or has stumbled across something and is new to something, I think should really be given a chance to learn. Yeah. Right now, so many people are so narrow-minded because they don't learn anything, because they don't listen, because nobody's actually speaking to them or with them. They're just speaking at them. Yeah. They're like, it's just constant, and everybody's just reacting. Nobody's actually taking a moment to sit and think, contemplate, try, figure out, and go, okay, cool. Wait, maybe I completely misunderstood you. Yeah. Sometimes it's the case that you did understand it and you don't see eye to eye, but that's the world. Yeah. And then fair, but you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying. I just find it happens. I've got to say it happens less and less the older I get at this point in time. Being in your 40s, I think, is a great leveler because you've got all this experience that you've developed over 3 plus decades, almost over 4 decades of being alive, of course. But, 3 decades of living and working memory, if you understand, from the age of 10 or 12 onwards. And you can apply a lot. And so you more or less become more receptive to, you definitely become more receptive to people's intentions when they come into your life, I think, and why they're actually there. It's like that old classic thing. It's like when you're working with people and you go and have beers with them on the weekend and stuff, is it because you're mates with them, or is it because you just, it's a convenient thing? That sort of thing. And eventually I just get to a point now where it's like, does it really matter? It's like, it is what it is. And you always find, I was talking to a young fella online. He's talking about, he's surrounded by all these top people with toxic political opinions. And he said, mine is different to them, and they always shoot me down effectively. I said, well, fuck them. You'll make new friends. Let them go. Like a snake shedding its skin, or you're going into a cocoon. You'll find new friends.
Yeah, there's 7 billion people on the planet. Yeah, I totally agree with you on what you just said. I think, absolutely. There's no reason to get stuck in one thing or one place. Oh, bless you.
Sorry, yeah, gosh, I thought I had it on mute then. My apologies. Yeah. I want to show you something, actually. I want to show you something just whilst I remember to do it. So here we go. Share.
Are you in a new place? I don't recognize your walls. It looks pretty rad in there.
No, I've just redone it. I've just redone everything.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Yeah, so that's my daughter's drum kit, that one there. So behind me. But yeah, that artwork there behind me, I don't know whether you can see it just there. She what's his my mate Christian from Chile, he did that for me. That's the new podcast artwork and everything. So but I'm doing far more videos these days. So I'm trying to do, it's been an incredible journey on the video front. It's just opened up my audience 3 or 4-fold, I've got to say, with the video side of things. But can you see, I'm screen sharing, but can you see what I've got?
I can see.
So I'm doing
Illustrator,
spot on. Yeah. So, I mean, you're probably a gun at this sort of stuff, and, but I'm doing a lot more of this sort of stuff here, but I just wanted to show you what I got planned. And I know it's a bit ironic because you're not playing the guitar on this release here, but I think that's such a cool photo of you because you look like you're standing within your own, you look very powerful in that shot. That's why I wanted to use that one rather than the new one, if that was okay.
Yeah, you can use whatever ones. I really enjoy that photo as well. That's from Falling Forward. It's like, it was quite a challenge to take that photo. I took it myself, actually. Had to put the camera on a tripod and then run and put my glasses away and hope that I don't fall over anything and then look far into the distance. So the look I'm giving is purely because I can't see what the fuck I'm looking at.
You got that Clint Eastwood look about it, that 1,000-yard stare going on, so
I can't see anything.
Yeah, I thought it was a good one, and I wanted to use. I went because I've got the Adobe stock account, and I thought that the pink and blue. I know you've got pink and green, but I think pink and blue suits you as well. So I thought, no, I'll do that, and I like the ethereal image associated with the. I guess it's some sort of trans-dimensional planetary alignment that's going on there, and and I think that sort of suits what you're doing here now too. You're sort of taking it into the deep cosmos. You know what I mean? So
absolutely. Sick. Nice. That's looking awesome, man.
Yeah. With the like, because it's very clear. The recording's very clear, and I never recorded piano before, but did you find that you had a lot of challenges capturing the tone that you wanted?
So, this is kind of random. I wish it was recorded on a piano, real piano.
Yeah.
One day I will record it on an actual piano. A lot of it I played on a real piano downstairs, on my partner's piano. But recording that is quite a challenge to really know what you're doing. So now with Rona and what we have, MIDI controllers is where it's at. I'm very fortunate that in my early working years, one of my first jobs was in a piano shop, in a music shop that sold pianos specifically. I didn't really know much about pianos, but knew a little bit about music. And I landed up selling a lot of pianos throughout the time. And long story short, have a bit of an ear for what I personally like in a piano sound. And I think to many people, it's actually a bit of a terrible piano sound because it's quite mellow and dark. But I remember during my working time, we moved. We had sold a piano and we had shifted one, and we moved the old piano out from where it was, and we were going to find it a new home. And the place that it went was basically to like a hospice type of a place. Yeah.
Okay.
And that piano was so messed up. But when we arrived there, people were so happy, and it was put into this little room which they had cleaned out, and it was a bit musty, the carpet and a bit dusty, and they put this piano in the corner. And obviously with the move and it being very old, it went a bit out of tune. But the guy who unlocked the door, I think it was probably the janitor. We don't really have janitors here, but the groundskeeper, he just went and just played a few notes very proudly. He didn't really know what he was doing, but bang on the piano, and just that kind of sound, which that piano gave, its nuances and such. I really tried to recapture, because I saved that to memory. You know how you save some things to memory, like click, click in your brain. So poor Clinton Watts from Watts Audio Recording Studio and Productions, I gave him quite a lot of back and forth with the sound and the tones. When I chose my setting on my VST, I included pedal sounds, I included extra nuances that an old piano would give, or an imperfect piano. My notes to Clint was make it imperfect, make it sound less perfect.
I love that about it, by the way.
In fact,
I'm so glad you did that, Robyn, by the way, that you didn't make it sound like as if it was done on a massive grand piano. It sounds, it gives it so much, it's overused word, but character. It does.
I really wanted it to mimic that room. I wanted it to feel as if everybody was sitting in that room, or like we were standing in that room. I wanted to be the guy who just pushed the notes on the piano and turn around with a fat smile in a musty, dusty room and look back at everybody and them just like kind of like, yeah, that's what I felt with all of this. And to recreate that shame, I went back and forth with Clint, lots of notes. He had so many amazing piano sounds. And I was like, it's too pretty, Clint. It's too pretty. So I gave him a lot of grief. And after I gave him a few notes of specific, like, imperfections I wanted to include, he really nailed it for me. And I think it came out so beautifully. He was like, I got you now. And then he sent me one mix. And I was like, that is it. That's the sound right there. You got it. And he just mimicked it across the rest of them, and
nice.
Used the same piano setting, same piano sound. But essentially all of that was recorded on this tiny little thing over here.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. That's how it's done.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it's done these days. Yep.
That, yeah. I would have loved to have set up microphones and put the piano, we're fortunate to have an acoustic piano in the house. It's not all that in tune at the moment, Cape Town. But, it's, and it's quite old as well, also Cape Town. But it's really awkward to set it up and to record. And by the time you do all of that, I don't know, sometimes I've lost the inspiration. I feel like as much as that is going to be a really cool experience to do, sometimes the song needs to get out, and it needs to get out now. And I really do believe in old school miking up things. I studied sound and sound engineering.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy old school miking things up, putting the mic just in the sweet spot and like, getting it just right. But sometimes there's not much budget for that, or time.
Time's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah. And also time in terms of financial time. But for me also, it's just like, you don't necessarily need to go in a big studio to make something work. I've always had a bit of like a MacGyver approach to life. Like Grey, the music video is literally that most of that music video, all the parts running through the forest, is my cell phone taped to a stick, taped to a pillow, taped to my chest. I look ridiculous running through the forest with a pillow taped to its stick, taped to my phone. It's ridiculous, but it works. You know, you don't need to necessarily spend a lot of money or time and effort. It took 2 people in an afternoon to put something cool together. If there's a will, there's a way. And I think we as artists, we get so caught up in the little details of like, oh no, so-and-so said that you have to get the kick drum at exactly this hertz to get it to punch. And if it's not exactly there, then it's not going to sound. Dude, use your ears. If it sounds cool, it sounds cool, man. Even if you throw your pen at something. Recently, on a song that I'm busy with right now, which will be in the works for something later down the line. So whoever listens to this will maybe pick it up. I was busy writing some music, and my partner Kathleen was busy working on some of her stuff that she's busy with for one of her projects. Oh, I have to be careful now because I can't give anything away. Okay. She was
it's
busy
cryptic
working
enough.
on,
It's all good.
yeah, cryptic. After that, give anything away. Sure, the pressure. Vastly different projects, yeah. 2 individual musicians in the same house. Anyway, she was busy cutting something. Let's put it like that.
Gotcha.
And
watch this space.
it was just, yeah, she was just busy cutting something, and the sound that it made was so cool. And for a moment, I was like, I should really record that just with my vocal mic, you know, just randomly without her knowing anything. She's sitting in the background while I'm busy fassing with drums or whatever. And I was like, nah, I'm sure I can get that sound on like a synth, you know, like a, you know, I don't know, whatever. And I thought to myself, why not just record that? Oh no, because somebody's going to think it's silly. Well, somebody can go fly, you know. If it sounds cool, it sounds cool. So I went and I recorded it. Dude, it sounds sick. Watch the space. When that song drops, it's going to be awesome. The scissors cutting a piece of thing, it's amazing. So yeah, I think you can really just use the tools that you have. I mean, in this case with The Waking World, it does this, but hey, could be anything.
It can indeed be anything, and I just look forward to seeing where this journey takes you. I mean, you've got the rest of your life to craft music. You've built up an audience at this point in time that I think some people like myself who are in tune with what's going on. So just please, and I know you will do it, so I don't necessarily need to say it, but just keep following that news that you've got, because you're connected to something. You're connected to something out there beyond Neptune, and provided you're a channel and you're a conduit for whatever it is to keep flowing through you. Fans like myself are going to continue to have this wonderful music, such as on this recent collection. And I just, it's just, and you've been prolific too. That's the other thing. Since how long have we known each other now? For 2 years or whatever it's been. There's been 4 releases, I think. Has it been 4 releases? It certainly feels that way. And they're all unique.
2 years.
Five, is it? There you go. I lose count, but that's the point. You've had that many that you're just going to keep going. So yeah, don't stop. Just keep doing what it is that you're doing, and fuck the haters. Excuse my language. Oh, sorry. This thing will do it. It'll come back in a sec. This camera. There we go.
That's so good.
Yeah.
No, and I think from the first time we spoke, you said, well, you know, what's the plan? I said, lots of music. I promise lots more music. That has not changed. Like, I always find it really surprising when people are surprised. I'm like, I told you. I told you I was busy writing lots of music. I told you.
Some people talk about it though, but they don't do it though. You know, like they say, "Oh, I've got all this music coming in." It's like, great, can't wait to hear it. And then it's like, yeah, to be honest, I'd never hear from them again. And I'm like, well, just hit me up when you got new material, and then I might go on their socials and check out what's going. These are artists that I've spoken to, independent artists, that I've spoken to years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and nothing since. And I get it, life takes over. I understand, but it's important, I think, with your talent, that you hear it from someone who isn't in your community, so to speak, around you in Cape Town there, that please just keep on doing what it is that you're doing. It's very enjoyable to listen to.
Thank you so much. Those great compliments. I always appreciate your feedback. Everybody abroad's feedback as well. It's really cool. Sometimes in SA, there can be a bit of competition. Sometimes it's a little difficult. So it's nice to hear outside voices and outside reactions. It's just really cool to have people like yourself who continue to support. So thank you so much. I'm really amped about all of this. I'm not planning on stopping writing anytime soon. There's music in the works. I'm never going to force anything. It will come as it comes. Right now, 5 albums have come in 2 years. I'm continuing to work on more. I don't know when the next one's going to come out, but I'm working on it. Let's just put it that way. There's never
a dull moment.
Things happen.
Never a dull moment with Robyn Ferguson, that's for sure. It's always music being made.
Has to. It's music is life. But thank you so much.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gents. One of the greatest guitarists to emerge from South Africa, now playing ambient piano music, Robyn Ferguson. If you like what you heard just then and you want to hear many more conversations just like it, head over to scarsandguitars.com. Search via the Whooshka widget where you can discover the stars, the leading lights of heavy metal, extreme metal, rock, and a few other surprises there. I'd appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, share, and if you're listening to this on social media, please leave a comment. I'd appreciate that. My name's Andrew Mackay Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. It is goodbye for now.